Chapter 684. If it were the other Sea of Souls realm warriors, they would have been able to keep the advantage. But, as soon as Yi Chun drove the gold dragon chariot in, the formation of the whirlwind gate was thrown into chaos. Within the crowd, there were enemies as well as their own people, so they could not just attack randomly. As for defense, it would be even more of a joke, since the defense formed by dozens of people would not be able to stop the attacking team, with the gold dragon chariot as the lead. With only one round of attacks, they would be able to open up a bloody path in front of them. The gold dragon chariot was moving at an extremely fast speed. If it were other Sea of Souls realm warriors who were controlling it, they might be able to overtake it and leave the enemy formation. But, under the control of Yi Chun, the chariot was like an angry dragon, but also like a mudfish. It rushed in and out of the enemy formation, opening up countless bloody paths. Looking down from the sky, one could clearly see that there were many bloody marks in the enemy formation, which was quite shocking. However, it was not like Yi Chun did not have any losses as well. Since there were less than 30 people on the chariot, the rest of them could only follow behind it like a tail. If the tail did not leave the formation, it would still be able to kill people. But once it left the formation, it would be drowned in the crowd. After a couple of breaths, at least 30 people could not keep up with the formation, and were drowned in the enemy formation. Bastard! Everyone spread out! Spread out! The leader of the whirlwind gate was about to go crazy. It had only been a couple of seconds, and 200 people had already been killed. They were all shocked. Right now dozens of people had died within each breath. It was not a battle at all. It was a massacre. Shoo! 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 Without the reminder from the leader of the whirlwind gate, the rest of the people had already reacted and started to fly in different directions. Yi Chun was not affected at all as he stood in front of the chariot and yelled, "Everyone listen up! Attack the enemies in the front left. Spread out!" If they concentrated their attacks, they would only be able to kill the enemies in one line, which would be a complete waste of power. However, if they scattered their attacks, the attack range would be much bigger. Plus, Yi Chun did not ask them to attack in all directions, but to focus on the left front. That way, even if they scattered their attacks, they would still be able to deal a heavy blow to the warriors of Whirlwind Gate. As expected, after the enemies had spread out, although they had escaped from being crushed, because of their limited defense, the enemies on the left side were still dying one after another like it was raining. As for Yi Chun, he did not attack the enemies on the left side, but on the right side. Under his green lotus sword chi, the enemies were also falling from the sky one after another. The number of people he had killed was about 1/3 of the total number of the others, which was very impressive. The leader of the Black King Martial School was shocked, and so were the warriors of the Black King Martial School. Within 5 breaths of time, the Whirlwind Martial School had lost around 400 warriors. Their well-organized formation had been shattered with just one strike. The whole scene looked like a huge cat was hunting a bunch of mice. The mice were panicking and running away in all directions. It was a complete mess. Where did this brat come from? The leader of the Black King Martial School had very sharp eyes. He was very clear that if it were not for Yi Chun controlling the Golden Dragon Chariot, it would be impossible to have this kind of effect. What scared him the most was that when Yi Chun was controlling the chariot, he was still able to shoot out countless rays of sword chi to open up a path for the team. In other words, without Yi Chun, the battling power of this team would be reduced by at least half. "Everyone, let's kill our way out." Su Danian and the warriors of the Azure Dragon Hall behind him were very miserable. There were around 400 of them when they came, but now there were only around 100 left. If it were not for Yi Chun attracting all the firepower and distracting the warriors of the Black King Martial School, they would have been wiped out already. Among the remaining 100 warriors, there were still around 30 Sea of Souls realm warriors, and almost 300 astral-reaching realm warriors had died. It was a horrifying number. Last time when Hu Wenhai was ambushed, only 300 astral-reaching realm warriors had died. Taking advantage of the warriors of the Black King Martial School being distracted and reacting a bit slow, Su Danian finally led the warriors of the Azure Dragon Hall to successfully break out of the encirclement. However, after that, their numbers had been reduced to around 80 warriors, and 3 Sea of Souls realm warriors had died. Kill. After killing enough, Yi Chen's gaze landed on the warriors of the Black King Martial School. He waved his hand, and the golden dragon chariot changed direction, charging over. Coming! Coming! Spread out! Don't let him get in our midst. Even though the warriors of the Black King Martial School had been through hundreds of battles, they were still scared by Yi Chen's battle strategy. With the golden dragon chariot as the head, who would be able to handle it? Don't spread out! The leader of the Black King Martial School suddenly yelled. No matter how horrifying Yi Chen's battle strategy was, it would only work if he got in the middle of the formation. The reason why the warriors of the Whirlwind Martial School were killed was because they had chosen to fight head-on instead of using all of their power to defend. By the time they tried to defend, it would already be too late. With the previous example, the warriors of the Black King Martial School only needed to focus on defense and wait for the chance to counterattack. Then, it would only be a matter of time before the rest of the warriors from the Whirlwind Martial School recovered. But it would all be too late. Once the warriors of the Black King Martial School had spread out, they would naturally not be able to join hands to defend. Meanwhile, Yi Chen was only dozens of miles away from them. 1 breath. 2 breaths. In less than 3 breaths, the golden dragon chariot, with its invincible golden light, rolled over. Wherever it went, the air kept exploding, and 2 clear marks were left under the wheels. Some people who didn't have time to hide further away were directly torn into pieces by the attacks. The entire golden dragon chariot and the troops behind it were like a mobile battery, with the rumbling of the cannons, and the momentum was like a rainbow. After the Whirlwind Gates people, the Black King Martial School's people were also scattered. The number of casualties had increased from single digits to dozens of people, and it was still increasing. It was like a rolling snowball, getting bigger and bigger, and getting more and more spectacular. As for the warriors of the Black King Martial School, who had spread out their attacks, they could not break through the defensive layer of the golden dragon chariot at all. Although the targets were small, they still needed to be orderly. Of course, the warriors on the golden dragon chariot were fine, but the warriors behind it were not so lucky. People were constantly being killed, their blood splashing in the sky. From more than 340 warriors at its peak, Yi Chen's warriors were now less than 240 warriors. The number of warriors was decreasing every second. The massacre was still going on. The warriors of the Black King Martial School who were attacked covered their heads and ran for their lives, while the ones who were not attacked regrouped and attacked in an orderly manner. Although the warriors of the Black King Martial School had suffered a great loss, the pressure on Yi Chen's side had increased as well. Their warriors had been reduced to around 200. Gather with Deputy Su and the rest. Yi Chen was not blinded by the massacre. He made up his mind immediately and led his people to gather with Su Danian, preparing for the upcoming battle. Deputy Yi, I, Su Danian, have never admired anyone before. You are an exception. I, Su Danian, owe you my life. After escaping from death, Su Danian was in a good mood. The warriors of the Azure Dragon Palace behind him also looked respectful. Yi Chen had saved their lives, which earned them a lot of respect. However, the massacre that Yi Chen had brought with him also made them feel a bit scared. Yi Chen jumped off the golden dragon chariot and said, "We are all from the Azure Dragon Palace. Of course, we need to help each other. I was only doing what I was supposed to do. Deputy Su, you do not need to thank me. Haha, no matter what, it is because of you that I am still alive. If I can make it back safely today, I will definitely find you for a drink." Su Danian laughed. All right. Yi Chen did not reject him. After the two parties gathered together, their numbers had increased to around 270 people, which was less than half of the number they had when they first arrived. However, compared to their enemies, they were much better off. Although the Azure Dragon Palace had suffered a great loss this time, the 4 enemy forces were not having a good time either. They had lost even more people than the Azure Dragon Palace. The powerful warriors from the Black King Martial School did not chase after him. Right now they needed to catch their breaths and not blindly kill. Plus, under Yi Chen's attack, they had lost quite a lot. From the original 600 warriors, they had dropped to 380. Adding the remaining warriors from the Whirlwind Gate, there were only 600 of them left. It should be known that they still had 1,300 warriors before. Gather. The leader of the Black King Martial School had a dark expression on his face. He waved his hand and led his people to gather with the warriors of the Whirlwind Martial School. Right now, only by working together could they maintain their morale. If they fought alone, it would be impossible for them to fight against Yi Chen's team. Brother Liao, what should we do next? The leaders of the Whirlwind Martial School and the Black King Martial School stood side by side. Kill. The leader of the Black King Martial School spat out one word. Today, if he went back like this, not only would his position in the Black King Martial School drop, he might even lose his position as a vice leader. He would also be looked down upon by the others. However, if he paid a heavy price to kill Yi Chen and the rest, it would be easier for him to find an excuse when he went back. After all, this accident was all because of Yi Chen. He believed that once the people above knew how terrifying Yi Chen was, they would not blame him for it. Instead, they would think that he had done a good job, as he had gotten rid of a terrifying enemy for the Black King Martial School. Can we kill them? The leader of the Whirlwind Gate hesitated. There were more than 600 warriors in the Whirlwind Gate, but now there were only 200 left. It was a complete mess, and many of them were wounded. The Black King Gate was in a better state than them, as they had only lost half of their men. Brotherly, it seems like you are scared. Think about it, we have 600 people, can't we stop their attack? As long as we work together, we can drag them into a battle. With our numbers, we can definitely kill them. The leader of the Black King Martial School did not lose his cool as he analyzed. That is true, but look at our people. The leader of the Whirlwind Martial School turned his head and said with a bitter smile. Hearing him, the leader of the Black King Martial School also turned his head, and his expression looked even worse. Although they had the advantage in numbers, which was more than twice the number of the Azure Dragon Hall, their morale was not even comparable. On the side of Yi Chen, their morale was extremely high. Their eyes were filled with confidence and killing intent. While on the Black King Martial School's side, they were all scared, trying to avoid eye contact. It was obvious that they were scared of Yi Chen. Thinking about it, it made sense. Wars were not scary. What was scary was a one-sided massacre. Yi Chen had left too much of a shadow in their hearts, and their morale could not be raised at all. They always thought that Yi Chen could continue to attack and kill them. Chapter 685. I am not willing to let them go just like this. The leader of the Black King Gate clenched his fists tightly, his expression fierce. Brother Liao, to be honest, even if our people's morale is fine, and we can successfully drag them into a battle, there is still not much of a chance for us to kill them all. If we do this, we will only lose a lot of people for nothing. 600 people against 270 people could definitely take the upper hand. But it would not be easy to kill all of them. Plus, among these 270 people, there were top master level warriors like Yi Chen and Lin Songhai. If the two of them wanted to escape, they would definitely be able to. In other words, if they continued to fight, the result would be Yi Chen and Lin Songhai escaping, and they would lose a third of their people. Kill 1,000 enemies, lose 800 of your own people. This was not what the leader of the Whirlwind Gate wanted to see. After saying that, the leader of the Whirlwind Gate stared at the leader of the Black King Gate. Taking a deep breath, the leader of the Black King Gate said in a low voice, "You are right. I have not thought this through. When I go back, I will report this to the higher-ups." That's right. I believe that the higher-ups will not ignore this person's existence. They will definitely send powerful warriors to deal with him, unless he hides in his turtle shell. The leader of the Whirlwind Gate revealed a smile. Everyone from the Black King Gate retreat. Everyone from the Whirlwind Gate retreat. After reaching an agreement, the two gave the order to retreat without any hesitation. They are retreating. On Yi Chen's side, everyone looked at each other. They did not expect that the enemies would choose to retreat when they had the advantage in numbers. Haha, they really are retreating. We won. Seeing the leaders of the Black King Gate and Whirlwind Gate leave with their people, the powerful warriors from the Azure Dragon Hall cheered. They were not afraid of death, but they wanted to live even more. No matter how confident they were, they did not think that they could survive in a direct battle. After all, the number of enemies was more than 2 times their number, which was not something they could ignore. Right then, the leader of the Black King Gate, who had already flown far away, turned around and said with a loud voice, "This time, I will remember. Next time, I will make your head roll on the ground. Next time, I'm afraid you won't have the chance." From the beginning to the end, Yi Chun had not revealed his strongest strength. In a war, a person's strength was indeed reduced by a lot. Even Yi Chun did not dare to take too many attacks head-on. However, he had the Imperial Sword technique. If he used the Imperial Sword technique to fly, his speed would increase to a terrifying level. Not to mention hundreds of people surrounding him. Even if thousands of people surrounded him, he could still escape. However, the Imperial Sword technique was his trump card, and he would not reveal it easily. I hope you can still say that when the time comes. The leader of the Black King Gate left with his men, and quickly disappeared into the horizon. Su Danian heaved a sigh of relief. He looked like he had just survived a disaster. Deputy Palace Master Yi, words cannot express my gratitude. Su Danian cupped his fists at Yi Chun. Putting away the golden dragon chariot, Yi Chun smiled faintly. Right, Deputy Palace Master Yi. How did you guys get here? Didn't you get ambushed? They were ambushed here, and Yi Chun's side was also ambushed. Therefore, they were very curious as to how Yi Chun got here. Could it be that Yi Chun could predict good or bad luck? Yi Chun said, "We killed our way here." Killed our way here. Su Danian did not quite understand. Xing Malian interrupted. Deputy Su, Deputy Yi is right. We killed our way here and killed all the Water School and Sky Eagle cult members, killing more than 1,300 people. Of course, without Deputy Yi, we would have been ambushed just like you guys and suffered heavy losses. Killed more than 1,300 people? Su Danian's eyes were wide open. After collecting all the resources from the 5 Gold Island and Mysterious Spirit Island, the group flew to the number 2 Volcano Island. After collecting a large amount of mid-rank fire cloudstones, the group began their journey back to the Azure Dragon Palace. When Yi Chun and the others returned to the Azure Dragon Palace, it did not cause much of a commotion. However, when the news of Yi Chun leading his people and killing more than 2,000 enemies spread out, the entire Azure Dragon Palace was shocked. Killing more than 2,000 people? What kind of concept was this? Even the achievements of the Azure Dragon Palace added together in the past few years could not compare to this. It could be said that this was a hearty victory, which would at least make the 4 enemy forces feel heartache for a long time. Among the 2,000 people killed, 600 were from Water Sect, 700 from Sky Eagle Cult, and 400 from Whirlwind Gate. The Black King Gate had the least casualties, with around 300 people killed. On average, each enemy force had lost 500 people. An unprecedented victory. A victory that restored the prestige of the Azure Dragon Palace. Originally, the Azure Dragon Palace had already lost the will of the people, and the cohesiveness was much lower than before. However, after this news was spread out, everyone's first reaction was to clench their fists, and their faces turned red. Naturally, an image appeared in their minds. A blue-robed sword artist Yi Chun, leading hundreds of people and sweeping across the battlefield unstoppable. Yi Chun had given them confidence, as well as a fighting spirit that had been missing for a long time. Second leader Ye's people have lost quite a lot. Let's hurry up and apply to join them. If we are late, it will not be our turn anymore. Haha, I have already applied. I am here to ask you to apply as well. So unloyal. How could they not wait for me? This was the most talked about topic after the news spread out. Killing the enemies would naturally bring rewards. Among the 2,000 people, there were 1,700 astral-reaching realm warriors, which would be 85,000 contribution points. There were 300 Sea of Souls realm warriors, and 250 normal ones, which would be 250,000 contribution points. 38 battle attendants, 114,000 contribution points. 15 head attendants, 75,000 contribution points. For Vice Hall Masters, 40,000 contribution points. In total, the total contribution points reached an astonishing 564,000. As for the distribution, the deputy was twice that of the head attendant was twice that of the battle attendants, and the battle attendants were twice that of ordinary Sea of Soul Realm experts. As for the astral reaching experts, they were the least 1/20th of ordinary Sea of Soul Realm experts. Since the majority of the people were killed by Yi Chun and his people, the contribution points were counted as theirs, and had nothing to do with Su Danian and the rest. On Yi Chun's side, there were only 200 people left, 150 astral reaching experts, 28 ordinary Sea of Souls Realm warriors, 24 battle attendants, 7 head attendants, and 1 Vice Hall Master. According to the distribution, astral reaching experts could get 234 contribution points. Ordinary Sea of Souls Realm warriors could get 4,600 and 700, battle attendants could get 9,000, and head attendants 18,000. Yi Chen's share was the highest, about 37,000 contribution points. Not to mention anything else, just the amount of contribution points was enough to make many people's eyes turn red. It should be known that the contribution points of Dragon God Celestial Palace were extremely valuable. Without wars, it was hard to earn them. Only wars could allow them to earn more contribution points. This was also the method of Dragon God Celestial Palace to stimulate people's enthusiasm. The ones who made the most profit were naturally the astral reaching disciples of Dragon God Celestial Palace. According to their strength, each of them should have gotten 234 contribution points. However, because of their identity as disciples, they had all become battle attendants. Therefore, the contribution points were distributed according to the battle attendants' distribution. It should be known that contribution points were not only useful in Azure Dragon Hall, but also in the entire Dragon God Celestial Palace. Normally, these astral reaching disciples wouldn't even have 1,000 contribution points. However, this time, they had earned more than 9,000. Of course, this was also paid with their lives. As disciples of Dragon God Celestial Palace, they had the status of geniuses. Their lives were much more precious than ordinary astral reaching experts. Moreover, even with Yi Chen's protection, 4 of them had died. There were 2 groups of people who didn't get any contribution points. One group was Su Danian's group. They had only killed a few people, which was insignificant. However, they had also received some rewards. Although they weren't as precious as contribution points, it was still better than nothing. Being able to return alive was already enough for them. What else could they ask for? The other group consisted of dead people. This time, there were 700 people who had gone out, but only 270 people had returned. A total of 430 people had died, which was a huge number. They couldn't get any contribution points, nor could they get any rewards, because they were already dead. However, their families would receive special care from Dragon God Celestial Palace. Some resources would be sent over, allowing their families to produce more experts. The preciousness of contribution points could be measured by the items they could be exchanged for. In Dragon God Celestial Palace, an ordinary mid-grade artifact was worth 300 contribution points. A peak mid-grade artifact was worth 500. An ordinary upper-grade artifact was worth 4,000. And a peak upper-grade artifact was worth 5,000. As for defensive artifacts, they were a bit more, about 1.5 times more than offensive artifacts. A semi-extreme grade offensive artifact was worth 30,000 contribution points, and a semi-extreme grade defensive artifact was worth 45,000 contribution points. The amount of contribution points Yi Chun had obtained was more than enough to exchange for a semi-extreme grade offensive artifact, but it was still lacking a bit for a semi-extreme grade defensive artifact. If it were in the outside world, wanting to buy a suitable artifact would cost God knows how many spirit stones. Many people would have to exhaust their entire fortune to gather enough artifacts. However, in Dragon God Celestial Palace, contribution points were more than enough. Apart from exchanging for artifacts, one could also exchange for pills, gems, profound martial skills, secret arts, and spirit stones. From this aspect, it could be seen that the burden of Dragon God's celestial palace was huge. Without sufficient resources, it could easily collapse. This was also the main reason why Dragon God's celestial palace would rather fight against the four great powers than give up on more resources. With 37,000 contribution points, Yichen didn't think about exchanging for artifacts. He already had both offensive and defensive artifacts, and they were all at the semi-extreme grade. As for pills, he didn't lack any, not to mention the others. However, he was somewhat interested in the secret arts of Dragon God's celestial palace. Xiaozuan had once used Blood Emperor Killing Finger, and its might was extremely great. Yichen had seen it with his own eyes. Thinking about it, no one would think that they had too many secret arts. Outside, the more secret arts one had, the better. It would be harder to see through one's background. Chapter 686. Ordinary exchanges could be done in the Azure Dragon Palace, but high-level exchanges would have to be done in the palace headquarters, such as profound martial skills, secret arts, and semi-extreme grade artifacts. Only Yi Chun and a few head attendants had the qualifications to do high-level exchanges. The others' contribution points were far from enough. On this day, Yi Chun rode on his flying puppet and headed toward the headquarters of Dragon God's celestial palace. The reason why he didn't use the conveyor gate was because it consumed extreme-grade spirit stones. If he used it for no reason, the palace would collapse sooner or later. Although Yi Chun didn't have any restrictions, and no one would say anything if he used it, Yi Chun didn't intend to do so. Anyway, the distance from the palace to the palace was only 15 million li, and it would take him about a month to ride the flying puppet. Of course, riding the flying puppet was only a cover. Once he was far away, Yi Chun would try the riding sword flight. Riding sword flight was Yi Chun's strongest speed. When he had just learned it, Yi Chun had used it before. However, at that time his realm was not that high. But now, he had already cultivated it to the peak of the second layer. He really wanted to try the extreme speed of the riding sword flight. Alright, let's try the extreme speed of the riding sword flight. Above the boundless ocean, Yi Chun put away his flying puppet and made a sword art with his finger. The gold sword on his back automatically came out of its sheath with a clang sound, floating in front of Yi Chun. Taking a step forward, Yi Chun stepped onto the rather wide gold sword, steadily standing on it. Go! Activating the sword art once again, the gold sword slightly trembled and shot out at a frightening speed like a beam of light from the sky. However, Yi Chun, who was standing on the gold sword, didn't show any signs of being flung away, because during the process of using the riding sword flight, his feet and the gold sword had formed countless connections, as if they had taken root and sprouted. So fast. So it turns out that when one is fast to the extreme, the scenery on both sides will slow down. There won't be anything that can't be seen clearly. In fact, Yi Chun had misunderstood. If an ordinary person's speed suddenly increased by a lot, their eyes wouldn't be able to keep up. This was because they wouldn't be able to adapt. But the reason why Yi Chun was able to adapt was because Yi Chun's limit was far from being reached. It should be known that Yi Chun's soul force was 5 times that of an ordinary person. Unless his speed suddenly increased by 5 times, it would be impossible for him to not adapt. It's about 70 times the speed of sound now. 72 times. 74 times. 75 times. When the speed reached 75 times the speed of sound, the speed of the sword kinesis flight could no longer be increased. It was as if there was an invisible shackle restricting the speed. Too fast. Using the sword light flying art, I can only reach 50 times the speed of sound at most. But the sword kinesis flight art has increased my speed by half. Moreover, using the sword light flying art consumes more Zhen Yuan than using the sword kinesis flight. It should be the effect of the soul force. What kind of concept was 75 times the speed of sound? It was equivalent to traveling 51 li in one breath, which would be 360,000 li in 2 hours. In one day he would be able to travel 4,400,000 li. In the world where Yi Chun came from, he would be able to circle around the earth 50 times in one day. The sword kinesis flight will consume a lot of soul force. Although it is almost negligible, there will be problems after a long time. I'll just maintain it at 60 times the speed of sound. Knowing that the highest speed of the sword kinesis flight was 75 times the speed of sound, Yichen gradually slowed down, maintaining it at around 60 times the speed of sound. 4 days later, Yichen arrived at the Dragon God's celestial palace. Without going anywhere else, Yichen went straight to his own residence, the Red Cloud restaurant. He then called over the attendant Yanzi. Dragon God envoy, you're back. Yanzi was a little surprised. Yeah. Yichen nodded and asked, where is the place where the Dragon God Celestial Palace keeps the profound sense martial arts and secret arts? Take me there. I know about this. There is a secret pavilion in the Dragon God Celestial Palace, where the profound sense martial arts and secret arts are stored. Dragon God envoy, follow me. Yanzi led the way in the front. After about an hour, the two arrived in front of a group of buildings in the core area of the palace. In the middle of the buildings, there was a pavilion. It was about 3 floors high, looking simple and unadorned. It had a special calming feeling to it. Dragon God envoy, that pavilion is the secret pavilion. I can't go in, so I can only take you here. Yanzi stopped. This bottle of yuan refining pellets is for you. Yichen took out a bottle of pellets from his storage ring and threw it to Yanzi. When he was in the Yi family, he often had to reward people. Therefore, he had a lot of low-rank pellets. This yuan refining pellet was a great help for clasping yuan realm warriors to make a breakthrough. It was one of the top mid-rank pellets. Ah, thank you, Dragon God envoy. Yanzi took over the pellet while trembling. Yuan refining pellets could be found in the Dragon God's celestial palace as well. It would cost 400 contribution points to exchange for 1 bottle, and she only had around 50 contribution points. It should be known that the contribution points in the Dragon God Celestial Palace were way too valuable. As a clasping yuan realm attendant, very few people would have more than 100 contribution points, since they would exchange for resources and help themselves sometimes. Right now, Yanzi's cultivation was at peak level mid-clasping yuan realm. With this bottle of pellets, she was confident that she could reach late clasping yuan realm within 3 months, which would save her a lot of hard work. Without noticing Yanzi's happy expression, Yichen walked into this group of buildings. There were a lot of defense lines outside the pavilion. Yichen did not want to cause any trouble, so he directly flashed his dragon tag, which allowed him to pass through without any obstacles. Arriving in front of the pavilion, Yichen walked up the stairs. Halt! The elder guarding the first floor of the secret pavilion walked out. I am Yichen, Dragon God envoy of the Dragon God Celestial Palace. Yichen flashed his dragon tag as usual. You are Yichen? The master's eyes brightened. Indeed. The master smiled. Since you are the Dragon God envoy, then I have no right to stop you. I will lead the way for you. Thank you. Yichen hesitated for a while, then nodded. He did not know much about the secret pavilion, and Yanzi was only a clasping yuan realm attendant. Naturally, she would not be able to tell him much useful information. If the master could lead the way for him, it would save him a lot of effort. The master's family name was Tian, and he had a very high cultivation, reaching peak level late seas of Soul's realm. Although he did not have much power here, all the members of the Master Association had to respect him, and would not dare to be rude to him. Only a few people in the whole Dragon God Celestial Palace could have the Master lead the way for them. The secret pavilion has 3 floors in total. The first floor has low-rank profound sense martial arts and top-rank earth realm secret arts. The second floor has mid-rank profound sense martial arts and low-rank heaven realm secret arts. And the third floor has high-rank profound sense martial arts and mid-rank heaven realm secret arts. Of course, there are not many high-rank profound sense martial arts, only 3 of which were all created by the leader, and 5 mid-rank heaven realm secret arts as well. The master seemed to be very familiar with them. Yichen said, let's go to the second floor first. The profound sense martial arts and secret arts on the first floor did not interest Yichen at all. Alright. Under the guidance of the master, Yichen arrived at the second floor. Although Yichen's goal this time was the secret art, since he was already here, He was prepared to observe as much as he could. Profound sense martial arts and secret arts were both worth looking at. After all, every profound sense martial art had its own unique features, and he might be able to learn something from it. Profound sense martial arts and heaven realm secret arts were all recorded inside the jade letters, and could not be observed directly. But, right next to the jade letters, there would be a thin booklet with the introduction and description of the profound sense martial arts and secret arts, so that the people who chose them would have some understanding in case they chose the wrong one. Yi Chen casually picked up a mid-rank wind profound sense martial art and opened it. Wind Dragon Break, a wind profound sense martial art. Using the wind as the source, it condenses the shape of a dragon. It is very flexible and powerful. Once trained to completion, it can instantly condense 9 dragon-shaped chi flows, which can be used for both offense and defense. Mid-rank profound sense martial art, 3-star rating. 4-star? There are ratings for the profound sense martial arts here? Yi Chen asked. The master said. Within the same rank, the profound sense martial arts have different levels as well. According to the effect and power of the profound sense martial arts, there is a rating of 1 to 5 stars. 1 star is the lowest, which belongs to those people who have just started to create mid-rank profound sense martial arts. 2 stars is the average level, and 3 stars is already very high. Most of the master level Sea of Souls realm warriors can only create 1 3-star rated mid-rank profound sense martial art in their lifetime, which is already enough to be proud of. As for 4 stars, only the most talented warriors can create it. 5 stars is the highest rating, and the one who created it must be a shocking martial genius. I see. Yi Chen thought to himself. My gold pattern should be at the 4-star level, and my Thunder Devour should be at the 5-star level. As for my Gold Fury, it has already surpassed the 5-star level, and is approaching the high-rank profound sense martial art level. But, it is not completed yet, so it is only 40–50% complete. He nodded to himself. The rating of the secret pavilion was very practical. For those people who could not create their own profound sense martial arts, if they chose a 5-star profound sense martial art, they would need to spend a lot of time to learn it, and might not even make any progress at all. But if they chose a 1-star profound sense martial art, it would be much easier, and they would not be at a loss of what to do. After that, Yi Chen looked through a lot more mid-rank profound sense martial arts. All of the mid-rank profound sense martial arts on the 2nd floor of the secret pavilion were basically 2 or 3 stars. There were very few 1-star ones, and even fewer 4-star ones. As for 5-star ones, it was not even 1% of all the mid-rank profound sense martial arts. Compared to the profound sense martial arts, the low-rank heaven realm secret martial arts seemed to be much rarer. What was a secret art? It was a secret art that would not be passed on to others. Between the same rank secret arts and martial arts, the secret art would be dozens of times more precious. Therefore, the 2nd floor of the secret pavilion did not have mid-rank heaven realm secret arts, but low-rank heaven realm secret arts, which were 1 level lower than mid-rank profound sense martial arts. Tiger Vigor Body, low-rank heaven realm secret art. Mysterious Spirit Eyes, low-rank heaven realm secret art. Demon Ox Mountain Breaking Spell, low-rank heaven realm secret art. Although there were not many secret arts, Yi Chen still spent a lot of time looking through them. Among them, the Tiger Vigor Body was a bone training secret art. Once trained, the bones would be extremely tough, and would not be easily damaged. The Mysterious Spirit Eyes was a secret eye art. After trained, the user could see the natural Yuan Qi with his naked eyes, as well as the Zhen Yuan track inside the enemy's body. It was a very useful auxiliary secret art. The Demon Ox Mountain Breaking Spell was even more precious than the other 2. It was actually a secret art that used power. If there were body training experts here, they would definitely choose it. Chapter 687. The Tiger Vigor Body trains the bones. And at the end, the bones will be as hard as a mid-rank great weapon, which will be extremely hard to break. However, it will also make the bones of the person who trains it thicker, and the appearance will gradually change. Forget about it. The mysterious spirit eyes can clearly see the yuan qi distribution in the world, and the Zhen yuan inside the enemy's body will not be able to hide. At the end, I can even see the path of the solid objects sticking together and break it with one attack. However, I have the eyes of the soul, so training the mysterious spirit eyes is just a waste. Yi Chen was slightly hesitant. He didn't want to learn the tiger vigor physique and the profound spirit eyes, but the ox demon mountain crushing art could increase his strength by several times and increase his close combat strength by a level. Demonic bull mountain crushing art is pretty good. My dragon god celestial palace has many body refining experts who have cultivated this art. Body refining experts of the same level are simply not their opponents. The pavilion elder nodded slightly and said to Yi Chen, "Elder Tian, bring me to the 3rd floor of the secret pavilion." Yi Chen planned to go to the 3rd floor of the secret pavilion to have a look. There were 5 Heaven Realm mid-tier secret techniques there. If there was one that he liked, it would be much easier for him to choose. "Alright, follow me." The pavilion guardian elder turned around and walked toward the stairway leading to the 3rd floor of the secret pavilion. The 3rd floor of the secret pavilion was very simple. There was nothing in the center, but 8 bookshelves were arranged in the pattern of the 8 trigrams. On each bookshelf, there was a jade slip and a thin booklet. On the 3rd floor, the pavilion elder stood aside, waiting for Yi Chen to make his choice. Starting from the first bookshelf on the left, Yi Chen picked up the booklets one by one and opened them. The first book was a high-rank profound martial art, Poison Dragon Drill. The Poison Dragon Drill only contained one type of profound, which was the profound of water. However, if one wanted to cultivate the Poison Dragon Drill to the highest realm, one would need to comprehend the profound of water to great completion. Once cultivated, the power of the Poison Dragon Drill could even make people with strong defenses feel fear. This was a profound martial art that specialized in breaking through defenses, and it was evaluated as 2 stars. The second one was the Azure Dragon Claw. It contained 2 profounds, the Wood Profounds and the Bone Profounds. The fusion of the 2 profounds allowed this profound martial skill to have a great potential. With one claw, one's hands and feet would go numb, and one would not be able to exert any strength. It was like being grabbed by a huge dragon. The 3rd book was called The Domain of Sea. It also contained 2 profounds, the Water Profounds and the Wood Profounds. The Domain of Sea was a domain-type profound martial skill. As for what a domain was, it was a unique force field that could increase one's own strength and decrease the enemy's strength. The Domain of Sea was very powerful because it required one to comprehend both the Water Profounds and the Wood Profounds to great success. It was rated as high as 4 stars. Without a doubt, these 3 high-grade profound martial arts were all created by the Dragon King. Too strong. Yi Chen sighed with emotion. According to the description in the booklet, Yi Chen could completely visualize a scene in his mind. A blurry human figure was continuously performing the Poison Dragon Drill, Azure Dragon Claw, and Domain of Sea, toying with the enemy in the palm of his hand, killing them with one strike. Even if my Gold Hurricane is trained to perfection and becomes a high-grade profound martial skill, it will only be rated as 1 star. It is not comparable at all. High-grade profound martial skills are already so powerful. I wonder what level a top-grade profound martial skill would be at. Above the high-grade profound martial skills were the top-grade profound martial skills, which were already very close to the natural laws. They were unpredictable and extremely dangerous, walking on the edge of the Great Tao. Senior Battle King had met an old man before. That old man pointed his finger at the sky, and a sun immediately appeared in the sky. Although it was not as big as the sun in the sky, its shape was exactly the same as the sun. It was unimaginably horrifying. According to the Battle King's speculation, that sun should contain a few kinds of profound. The earth profound, the fire profound, and the water profound. Fire and water were opposites, and it would be extremely difficult to combine them. At least, the Battle King could not estimate how high the old man's realm was, and could only admire him. Don't bite off more than you can chew. I haven't even mastered the Gold Hurricane yet. If I continue to study a high-grade profound martial skill, it will just be a waste of time. Although training is about being brave and diligent, it is also about achieving success when the conditions are right. I can't force it just to increase my power. Without taking another look at the high-grade profound martial skills, Yi Chen came to the fourth bookshelf. The master nodded in his mind. When he first came to the secret pavilion, he was obsessed with these 3 high-grade profound martial skills. How could he not take a second look at them? On the other hand, Yi Chen's determination was something he had never seen before, which made him gasp in admiration. This kid's future is limitless. One day the wind, the clouds, and the water will all flow for him, and he will become a legend. The master had been guarding the pavilion for almost 100 years. He had already trained his impetuous heart into a transparent heart. He did not judge people by their appearance, but by their inner qualities. Mid-rank Heaven Realm Secret Art, Blood Chi Azura. Mid-heaven ranked secret arts were much more mysterious and powerful than low heaven ranked secret arts. This Blood Chi Azura was actually a secret art that cultivated blood chi. When cultivated to minor completion, one's blood chi would increase by several folds. The blood chi in one's body would be like a furnace, impenetrable by ghosts and gods. When cultivated to major completion, one would be able to condense a blood chi azura behind one's back, possessing unimaginable might and boundless vitality. Entering the secret pavilion requires a firm mind. Even with my current state of mind, I feel a bit restless. I wonder what kind of performance those newcomers will have. Everyone had the heart of a powerful warrior. Some people, due to various reasons, had lost the heart of a powerful warrior, and some people, because of the strong warriors, became stronger and stronger. However, no matter whether they had the heart of a powerful warrior or not, they would be greatly affected when they came to the secret pavilion. The profound martial arts and secret skills in the secret pavilion were all earth-shattering. Even if they knew that they could not cultivate them, they would still have a daydream and lose their calmness, which was quite unbearable. The first and second floors of the secret pavilion were still fine, but the third floor was extremely tempting. Every single one of these books would cause a bloody storm, and even rank 5 martial schools would want to fight for them. The Dragon God's Celestial Palace was a top rank 5 martial school, which was way more powerful than normal rank 5 martial schools. Therefore, the high-rank Profound Sense martial arts and mid-rank Heaven Realm secret arts would definitely drive people crazy. Taking a deep breath, Yi Chen put down the Blood Chi Azura book and walked towards the 5th shelf. Mental Wall. Illusion Eye. Survival Tao. The second secret art was Mental Wall, the third was Illusion Eye, and the fourth was Survival Tao. Mental Wall was a soul power training secret art. Once trained, it would be able to block out some mental power attacks or traps like illusions and dreams. Although it would not increase one's power directly, it would make one more perfect and flawless, which would increase one's survivability. Illusion Eye was the same as Mysterious Spirit Eyes, which were eye spells. The difference was that Illusion Eye was a secret art that could make the enemy hallucinate. Once the eyes were opened, the illusion attack would be launched immediately, which would be impossible to defend against. Once the eyes were closed, the illusion would disappear without a sound. The path of seeking survival was the most special. Those who cultivated the path of seeking survival couldn't directly increase their strength, nor did it have any supplementary effects. However, it could make a person's will to live extremely intense. One shouldn't underestimate the will to live. When a person was faced with a desperate situation and fell into a situation where death was certain, a person with a strong will to live would erupt with an unimaginable power. The human body was a small universe, and there were too many unknown things. If one could study one's body thoroughly, he would no longer be a human but a god. Unfortunately, these 3 secret arts were not as attractive to Yi Chen as the Blood Chi Azura. Although Mental Wall was good, his talent was soul power, and his soul will was very strong. How could he easily fall into an illusion or a dream? It should be known that a sword artist's will was the most aggressive, and they would never train this kind of conservative secret art. In other words, if he relied on Mental Wall to defend against the enemy's illusion attack, then he would not be a sword artist, because his sword will was not strong enough. Of course, Yi Chen did not need Illusion Eye. Using illusion to defeat his opponent was not in line with his sword art. Survival Tao. Yi Chen never lacked the survival desire. Most importantly, he wanted to use his own power to defeat all negative emotions. Out of the 5 secret arts, there was only one left. Middle rank Heaven Realm secret art Blood Severing Ghost Finger. Picking up the booklet, Yi Chen opened it to the first page. After a long while, Yi Chen revealed a shocked expression. So scary. The other secret arts did not have star ratings behind them, because they all had their own specialties and different effects. However, Blood Severing Ghost Finger had a rating behind it. It was not 1 star, 2 stars, or 3 stars, or even 4 stars, but the highest was 5 stars. In other words, Blood Severing Ghost Finger was one of the best middle-rank Heaven Realm secret arts. Blood severing meant cutting off one's blood qi, which was the foundation of one's body. Losing one's blood qi was equal to losing one's life essence, and it was impossible to survive. Losing a small part of one's blood qi, one's explosive power, reaction, insight, and even physical strength would be greatly reduced. Ghost Finger did not have a specific meaning, it was just a description. It meant that under one finger, one would become a ghost. Blood Severing Ghost Finger could cut off one's blood qi, and one finger would become a ghost. Sinister, domineering, horrifying. This was a finger of death. When trained to the minor realm, it would have a terrifying power. When trained to the great realm, one would not need to get close to the enemy, he only needed to point his finger, and the enemy's blood qi would automatically disappear, as if they had been brought to hell to nourish the ghost god. Blood Severing Ghost Finger was very difficult to train. No, it could no longer be described as difficult, because according to the Dragon King's description, no one had been able to truly train Blood Severing Ghost Finger. Even the Dragon King himself had only trained it to the minor realm, which had nothing to do with comprehension, but an invincible courage to judge life and death. I'll choose this. Yi Chen made up his mind. Seeing Yi Chen pick up the jade scroll, the pavilion elder frowned slightly. Dragon God Envoy originally, no one could train this blood-severing ghost finger without the palace lord's permission. But before he went into seclusion, he said that he would fulfill all your requirements, so you are qualified to train it. But I have to remind you, no one has ever successfully trained blood-severing ghost finger, not even the palace lord. Do you really want to choose it? He was doing this for Yi Chen's own good. He did not want Yi Chen to waste his time on training blood-severing ghost finger. If he could successfully train it, it would be fine. But this blood-severing ghost finger was extremely strange. No matter how talented one was, without the specific requirements, one would not be able to train it. I'll try, no need to worry. Although he said so, Yi Chen had no intention of trying. If that's the case, then I won't say anything more. The pavilion elder sighed, but still kept his mouth shut. How many contribution points does this blood-severing ghost finger cost? Yi Chen asked. The pavilion elder laughed. You are the Dragon God Envoy. You don't need contribution points. And this blood-severing ghost finger can't be exchanged with contribution points. If that's the case, then so be it. Yi Chen still wanted to use contribution points to exchange, but he also understood that even if it was possible to exchange for blood-severing ghost finger, it would be a shocking amount, at least 100,000 contribution points. Chapter 688. Arriving at the second floor of the secret pavilion, Yi Chen thought about it and decided not to take the demonic bull mountain breaking spell. Right now, just the blood-severing ghost finger alone would cost him a lot of energy. If he were to train the demonic bull mountain breaking spell as well, his training time might be completely wasted. Everything would have to wait until he cultivated blood-severing ghost finger to minor completion. Dragon God Envoy, just cultivate blood-severing ghost finger. Don't spread it out. Sending Yi Chen to the pavilion's entrance, the elder reminded. Yi Chen said, Rest assured, Elder Tian. Yi Chen is not an impulsive person. After saying these words, he started walking away from the pavilion. Palace Master and young Miss Insight is too formidable. The elder retracted his gaze and returned to the pavilion. A living person had come to the Dragon God Celestial Palace. If they didn't even know about it, then the palace wouldn't be called Dragon God Celestial Palace. Outside the Red Cloud residence, Elder Yu was waiting. Dragon God Envoy. Seeing Yi Chen, Elder Yu revealed a smile. Elder Yu, take a seat inside. Yi Chen waved his hand, and the Red Cloud residence's array opened. Under the mid-grade maple tree, in front of a lake dyed crimson by the clouds, two people sat around a stone table slowly drinking tea. After a while, Elder Yu put down the cup. Dragon God Envoy, what's the current situation of the Azure Dragon Hall? The corner of Yi Chen's mouth rose. One good news and one bad news. Which one do you want to hear first? Then let's hear the bad news first. Elder Yu sucked in a deep breath. Hearing the good news before the bad news would make his mood heavy. Hearing the bad news first, then the good news, perhaps it would be better. A week ago, Deputy Su Danian and I were transporting resources, but we were ambushed. We lost more than 430 people, 23 Sea of Soul Realm experts, and more than 400 astral reaching experts. Hiss! Elder Yu sucked in a breath of cold air, his expression changing several times. This time, the number of Sea of Soul Realm experts was a bit less, but more than 400 astral reaching experts had died. This was even more severe than the loss of Deputy Hu. Hearing this news, he almost suffocated. Smiling bitterly, Elder Yu gulped down a mouthful of tea. Just as I expected, soon after his expression became fierce. If I find out who the spy is, I'll definitely let him taste the pain of being bitten by 10,000 snakes. If there were no spies, how could the Azure Dragon Palace have suffered 2 ambushes? The losses from the 2 ambushes were already close to 800 people. This was a number that made everyone feel pained and angry. Elder Yu was speechless for a long time, his emotions fluctuating. Sighing, Yi Chen said, Elder Yu, don't you want to hear the good news? Speak. Elder Yu didn't expect Yi Chen to give them any good news. Our side has lost more than 430 people, and the enemy has lost more than 2,000 people. Is this good news? Yi Chen raised his teacup and smiled. More than 2,000 enemies died? Elder Yu couldn't react for a moment. The contrast was too great. Say that again. How many enemies died? Over 2,000. Over 2,000. More than 2,000. Haha, more than 2,000 actually died. That's more than 5 times our losses. Haha. Elder Yu laughed out loud. His laughter shook the mid-ranked maple trees, and fiery red maple leaves fell and danced in the wind. Dragon God Envoy, how did you kill more than 2,000 enemies? Elder Yu's gloomy mood was swept away, and he was in a good mood. He asked curiously. Yi Chen didn't hide anything, and recounted what happened that day. After listening, Elder Yu looked at Yi Chen with respect. Dragon God Envoy is truly a godly person. You am full of admiration. Although Yi Chen didn't mention his own factors, how could Elder Yu not know that the key to killing more than 2,000 enemies was Yi Chen? Without him, they wouldn't have been able to avoid the ambush, and the outcome would have been completely different. At that time, they would have been completely annihilated. Dragon God Envoy, this is a big matter. If you don't find it troublesome, please come with me to the Elder's Hall. Everyone is very concerned about the situation of the Azure Dragon Palace. Alright. Yi Chen didn't decline. The Elder's Hall was completely packed. The Great Elder revealed a rare smile. His smile became wider and wider, and eventually, he laughed heartily. The second and third elders beside him also laughed in succession. It was a laugh of relief. How could the other elders be so reserved like the Great Elder? Each and every one of them was dancing with joy, using their own movements to express their excitement. The sounds of discussion were simply like boiling water. The Elders' Hall had never been so chaotic before, but no one came out to stop them. More than 2,000 killed. This number is already comparable to the losses of our Dragon God Celestial Palace in the past few years. This is only one battle. The 4 hostile forces should be feeling the pinch this time. Fortunately, we invited Dragon God Envoy. Otherwise, it would be us who would be feeling the pinch. You don't need to say that. The Elders Association was in a hubbub. Cough cough. It was too chaotic, and it was hard to speak. The second elder cleared his throat and calmed everyone down, then said, Dragon God Envoy, how many disciples of my Dragon God Celestial Palace have died? His bottom line was that half of them had died, although only 3 of them had Sea of Soul Realm cultivation base, and the rest were astral reaching realm. Those who could become disciples of Dragon God Celestial Palace were all geniuses among geniuses. The death of one was equivalent to the death of dozens of ordinary astral reaching experts. 4 died. None of the core disciples died. Yi Chen replied honestly. Good. The second elder let out a sigh of relief, for dead was far below his bottom line. Let them continue to temper themselves in the Azure Dragon Palace. After this, we'll send another batch. Hearing these words, the great elder faintly nodded. Battles were the best way to temper oneself. If one didn't die twice, be it in terms of survivability or mental state, they would both improve by a large margin. Of course, tempering themselves twice was enough. The other disciples of Dragon God Celestial Palace had to be given a chance as well. After venting his emotions, the great elder gradually calmed down and said, "This time, the 4 hostile forces have suffered disastrous losses. They will certainly not let this matter rest. Dragon God Envoy, you will inevitably become their target. They will certainly think of a way to eliminate you." "I know. Rest assured, Great Elder." Yi Chen had long since prepared his heart for this. "You have the ability to seek fortune and avoid calamity. I believe you'll be fine. As a last resort, you can abandon anyone as long as you survive." The Great Elder couldn't explain how Yi Chen could avoid the ambush and launch a surprise attack. He could only attribute it to the mystical power of seeking fortune and avoiding calamity. Such a thing shouldn't happen, Yi Chen said confidently. That's for the best. After the meeting, Elder Yu once again brought Yi Chen to the treasury and let him choose the second war chariot. Yi Chen's ability was unquestionable. 1 war chariot was no longer enough. 2 war chariots would undoubtedly make Yi Chen's team even more powerful. If not for the fact that Dragon God Celestial Palace only had 1 war chariot left, Yi Chen would have no problem with all 3 war chariots. The new war chariot was called Black Rubber War Chariot. Its quality was a bit weaker than the Golden Dragon War Chariot, but its Flood Dragon head could shoot water bullets. After resting for a night in Red Cloud Residence, Yi Chen set out for the Azure Dragon Palace the next day. In a flash, half a month had passed. The Azure Dragon Palace was very quiet. Lin Songhai's residence was in a corner of Azure Dragon Island. There was no one within 100 li. During this half a month, Sword Chi would frequently soar into the sky, and the weather would change color. In the bet with Yi Chen, Lin Songhai had undoubtedly lost. Ever since he had embarked on the path of Sword Dao, Lin Songhai had never lost to someone of the same generation. His nature was not bad, but he was used to being high and mighty. No matter how peaceful he was, he wouldn't act as if nothing had happened. He didn't hate Yi Chen. He only wanted to become stronger, so that he could challenge this rising young sword master someday. Compared to Lin Songhai's side, Yi Chen's side was much quieter. This was because Yi Chen was cultivating blood-severing ghost finger, which didn't cause much of a commotion. It only brought deathly stillness and terror. Sever. Calmly standing under a tree, Yi Chen held his breath and concentrated. With a sharp gaze, he raised his right hand's index and middle fingers and made a stroke. Noiselessly, the upper part of the tree seemed to have lost all its moisture and suddenly dried up. The leaves instantly turned yellow and floated down mercilessly. Apart from the lower part, the rest of the tree became withered and lifeless, as if its vitality had been erased. Blood-severing ghost finger intercepts blood chi, but blood chi contains the essence of life. Trees also contain the essence of life, and thus have the same effect. However, the effect is only half. Only when facing a real body of flesh and blood can it display its greatest effect. Blood-severing ghost finger was indeed difficult to cultivate. Although Yi Chen's comprehension was 5 times higher than ordinary people, he still had no clue in the first few days. Later on, he carefully studied the description in the booklet and realized what kind of state of mind was needed to judge life and death. With a trace of understanding, every time Yi Chen cultivated blood-severing ghost finger, he would use sword intent to sever all distracting thoughts. Finally, he grasped the basics. Of course, the current blood-severing ghost finger was only at the entry level. and was still far away from minor completion. At most, it could only deal with ordinary Sea of Soul Realm experts. As the days passed, Yichen also improved a little bit. This improvement was extremely small, to the point that there was almost no difference between the first day and the second day. Only after a period of time would he be able to feel that slight difference. As he gained some understanding of blood-severing ghost finger, Yichen felt more and more strange and frightening. While cultivating this finger art, he could occasionally see some frightening scenes. On a barren land without any vitality, dead souls wandered about, ghost fires filling the sky. Those dead souls were all covered in tattered white cloth, and the death chi was very dense. Yichen didn't know whether this was a strange scene or something else. However, Yichen wasn't afraid because of this. If he had to cultivate, he would still cultivate. Moreover, he discovered that whenever the frightening scenes appeared before his eyes, the cultivation of blood-severing ghost finger would become much smoother. It was as if there was an invisible force cooperating with him. Just like that, another half a month passed. Yichen's blood-severing ghost finger had improved by about 2 times compared to when he had just started. With a single slash, the vitality of an entire tree would be erased. At this moment, Yichen could already occasionally see dead souls wearing white robes. These dead souls were different from the others, as if they had their own intelligence. Their death chi was unimaginably dense. Chapter 689. On the other side of Blood Battle Ocean, there was a huge island that spanned several tens of thousands of li. This island was shaped like a scorpion, but also like a fork. It faced the Blood Battle Ocean, just like its shape. This island was called Scorpion King Island, which was jointly owned by Black King Gate, Whirlwind Gate, Sky Eagle Cult, and Water Wave Sect. This island had no other purpose other than to gather the forces of the 4 great powers, in order to contend against Dragon God's Celestial Palace. At this moment, in a palace at the center of the island, the leaders of the 4 forces were having an intense discussion, and the atmosphere was stifling. Damn it, he killed more than 700 people of my Sky Eagle cult. This anger, my Sky Eagle cult will not swallow it. We must make Azure Dragon Hall, and that kid pay with blood. Your Sky Eagle cult lost more than 700 people, and my Water Wave Sect's casualties are not much less than yours. Even my uncle was killed. Alright, we are not here to complain, but to think of a way to get rid of that kid. As long as we get rid of him, Azure Dragon Hall will be nothing but a toothless tiger, not worth mentioning. The leader of the Black King Sect's branch was a skinny man in black robes, and his expression was cold. In my opinion, that brat definitely has the ability to seek fortune and avoid calamity. He's able to sense danger. Therefore, no scheme will be of much use. Only in upright battle will we have the chance to kill him and get rid of any future troubles. The leader of the Whirlwind Gate said calmly, "You're saying that we can kill him without relying on schemes?" The leader of the Water Wave Sect's branch was a green-robed elder. Right. The palace was silent for a while, and the leader of the Black King Sect's branch was the first to speak. I agree. I agree. Since all 3 of you have agreed, it's useless for me to object. I agree. The leader of the Whirlwind Gate's branch was in his 50s. He had a long beard and long hair. His eyes were long and narrow. His eyes were flickering with a cold light. He was the leader of the Wind Hall, one of the 3 branches of the Whirlwind Gate. His name was Heilungji. His strength had already reached the peak of the martial arts master realm. Seeing that the leaders of the 3 factions had agreed, he said, "Although we don't need to come up with a plan, we still need to come up with a plan. How can we prevent that kid from escaping from our palms? After all, he has the ability to sense danger." The green-robed old man from Water Wave Sect said, "Sensing danger definitely has a range, and I'm guessing that it won't be too big. As long as one of us attracts him, the other 3 will go around and cut off his escape route. Wouldn't that be easy?" The green-robed old man was older than the 3 of them. Whether it was conspiracies or tactics, he was able to grasp them easily. The hall master of the Sky Eagle Cult's branch hall, a middle-aged man with a sharp nose, said, "Then who will attract him? There's no need to force anyone. Everyone will volunteer. How about this? Whoever is willing to attract the other party's attention will get half of the loot and the number of kills. Hilengji said. Half of the loot and the number of kills. The eyes of the three hall masters flickered. The resources that could be transported by Yi Chen himself must be very plentiful. If they were to split it evenly, each party would only get 25%. If they could get half, the sex reward alone would be huge, and their contribution points would definitely double. With enough contribution points, they would be able to exchange for some of the precious resources they wanted, such as spirit energy crystals, supreme-grade spirit stones, semi-supreme-grade pellets, and so on. These were the things that the sects were not willing to give away casually. I'll do it. The man with the sharp nose made his decision. Brother Zhou, you'll attract him? The other three hall masters looked at him. Isn't it just holding him back temporarily? What's there to be surprised about? I don't believe that he can do anything to me. In terms of individual strength, he hasn't shown any overwhelming power yet. The Heavenly Eagle cult had suffered too heavy a loss last time, and many people from the Elder Guild were making things difficult for him. This made him feel even more pressured. One had to know that fighting against the Azure Dragon Hall in the Blood Battle Ocean, although there were some dangers, it was definitely a good job. The other hall masters had always coveted it, and if he could not produce satisfactory results, he might lose this job. Most importantly, what made Yi Chen so troublesome was his ability to seek fortune and avoid calamity, not his individual strength. Of course, Yi Chen's individual strength was also very frightening. He was definitely at the top of the peak masters. Fortunately, this was not a one-on-one battle. Alright, since Brother Zhou has volunteered, we'll fulfill your wish. The three sects were tempted, but they also had some concerns. Sending resources to the Blood Battle Ocean was too common. Not to mention the 1,000 spirit veins of the Dragon God Celestial Palace. Just the rare metals, gemstones, and energy crystals were not few. Of course, some low-quality resources didn't need to be personally transported by deputy hall masters. Only some battle attendants or head attendants would do. Moreover, this kind of inconspicuous transportation would result in casualties on both sides, and rarely would there be ambushes. Generally speaking, Dragon God Celestial Palace would have a small batch of resources delivered every 3 days, and every half a month, a huge amount of resources would be delivered. Only once every 3 months would a huge amount of resources be delivered by a deputy, such as Yi Chen's previous trip. On this day, there was another big mission. The main objective of this mission was to transport the resources of Azure Spirit Island. Azure Spirit Island was one of the most important resource islands of the Dragon God Celestial Palace. There was only one spirit vein on it, but it was an ordinary upper-grade spirit vein. It was comparable to dozens of peak mid-grade spirit veins. Needless to say, Su Danian, Wu Chuan, and Yi Chen, the 3 deputy hall masters, would all be dispatched to transport the resources of Azure Spirit Island. At night, Yi Chen didn't rest. Instead, he arrived outside Yao Yifeng's residence and disappeared into the darkness with the help of doppelganger transformation art. His soul power spread out, soundlessly covering the entire building complex. Not even the slightest movement could escape Yi Chen's perception. Inside a secret room, Yao Yifeng picked up the snail artifact and spoke. This time, I want a bottle of half-supreme grade marrow cleansing pill, and a bottle of half-supreme grade blood tempering pill. The other side turned silent for a moment, then asked, "What's the mission this time? How many people will be dispatched?" The mission this time is to transport the spirit stones of an ordinary upper-grade spirit vein. The number of people dispatched won't be less than 1,000. Is that Yi Chen inside? Yes. Good. I promise you. Great. Yao Yifeng's face revealed a joyous expression. The other side no longer spoke, so Yao Yifeng turned off the snail artifact. With half-supreme grade marrow cleansing pill and blood tempering pill, my constitution will reach an even better level. Cultivating will be twice the result with half the effort. Yi Chen, although you didn't die by my hands, it's still the same as me killing you. If you want to blame something, blame yourself for showing off too much. Is that so? A voice came from outside the secret room. Who is it? Yao Yifeng turned pale with fright. Pucci. The secret room was made of a special metal, which was extremely hard. However, at this moment, a sword light flashed, and the secret room's wall was cut open like tofu. Swish! A figure flashed out. Yi-chun. Yao Yifeng was horrified. It's me. I didn't expect you to be a spy. What proof do you have? Yao Yifeng recovered and said in a gloomy tone. Yi-chun faintly smiled and faintly sucked in a breath. His voice was transmitted out under the urging of Zhen Yuan. Everyone, Yao Yifeng is the spy. I've already caught him. Yi-chun, you dare? Yao Yifeng was incomparably furious. Didn't you say I don't have proof? Since I don't, what are you afraid of? Yi-chun retorted. Humph. You dare to frame me? I'll make you pay the price. Yao Yifeng said fiercely. Soon Su Danny and Wu Chuan, and even Azure Dragon Hall leader Wei Longtao arrived. One by one, they entered the secret room through the opening. Yi-chun, you said Yao Yifeng is the spy. Do you have proof? Wei Longtao said expressionlessly. Puff. Yi-chun acted ruthlessly. With a flick of his finger, a sword chi severed Yao Yifeng's palm, causing blood to gush out. With a suction force, Yao Yifeng's palm was sucked over. The storage ring on it automatically fell off and landed in Yi-chun's hand. Yi-chun, I want your whole family to die. You actually cut off my palm. Yao Yifeng didn't expect Yi-chun to be so ruthless, cutting off his palm without any proof. He immediately roared in resentment. Wu Chuan and Su Danian were quite moved, inwardly adding Yi-chun to the list of killing gods. A sharp light flickered in Wei Longtao's eyes. Yi-chun, even if your identity is noble, I still have the authority to punish you for framing and harming a fellow comrade. Whether I'm framing or not, everyone will soon know. Without much effort, Yi-chun easily broke the soul imprint on Yao Yifeng's storage ring. His soul power entered and searched inside. Very quickly, Yi-chun took out a snail-shaped metal artifact. Sound-transmitting snail. Su Danian blurted out. Wu Chuan fiercely glared at Yao Yifeng and said furiously, Yao Yifeng, where did you get this sound-transmitting snail? Sound-transmitting snail was more precious than 10 semi-supreme grade artifacts. Its refining method had long been lost. Even some life and death kings didn't have it, let alone Yao Yifeng. Yao Yifeng endured the pain and said through clenched teeth, Is it strange that I have a sound-transmitting snail? Everyone has their own fortuitous encounters. This sound-transmitting snail is something I obtained in some ruins. Quibble. Yi-chun opened the sound-transmitting snail and transmitted his Zhen Yuan at a special frequency. It was like a code, sometimes long, sometimes short, sometimes strong, sometimes weak. As the Zhen Yuan entered the snail, it gradually emitted a faint radiance, and a small energy whirlpool appeared at the snail's mouth. Reverse. Yi-chun spat out his Zhen Yuan, and the energy whirlpool's direction reversed. Awesome. All right. I promise you. Yes. Is that Yi-chun inside? The mission this time is to bring back the spirit stones of an ordinary upper-grade spirit vein. The number of people dispatched is no less than 1,000. What mission is this time? How many people are dispatched? The conversation between Yao Yifeng and the other party was transmitted from the snail, but in reverse order. You know the method to open the sound-transmitting snail? Yao Yifeng's eyeballs almost popped out, becoming bloodshot. Chapter 690. How do you still want to quibble now? Yi-chun himself didn't know how to open the sound-transmitting snail, but he had previously seen Yao Yifeng use it. How powerful was his soul power? The details of Yao Yifeng opening the sound-transmitting snail were clearly seen by him, without the slightest mistake. Yao Yifeng didn't expect you to really be a spy. Su Danian and Wu Chuan were incomparably furious, their eyes turning blood red. Wei! Yao Yifeng lost his head out of fear, and hastily looked at Azure Dragon Hall leader Wei Longtao. Pung! A phantom flickered as Wei Longtao's palm slapped Yao Yifeng's head, exploding it on the spot. His flesh and blood evaporated. Before Yao Yifeng's head exploded, Yi-chun clearly saw the incredulous expression in Yao Yifeng's eyes. It was as if he didn't dare to believe that Wei Longtao would kill him. Not only Yao Yifeng, even Su Danian, Wu Chuan, and Yi-chun didn't dare to believe it. After all, Wei Longtao didn't have the authority to kill Yao Yifeng. Under normal circumstances, Yao Yifeng would be escorted to the headquarters of Dragon God Celestial Palace to be interrogated by the Elders Association. Hall Leader Wei, what's the meaning of this? Yi Chen's expression turned cold as he questioned. Wei Longtao said with an ice-cold expression, because of him, my Dragon God Celestial Palace lost close to 1,000 troops. I once said that if I knew who the spy was, I would personally kill him. Now that I've confirmed that he's a spy, I naturally won't let him live. Deputy Yi, do you have any objections? Of course I do. First, you don't have the authority to kill a great attendant who betrayed Dragon God Celestial Palace, because he might have other secrets. Second, you killed Yao Yifeng without the slightest hesitation. Could it be that you were afraid of him saying something important? Before his death, Yao Yifeng shouted your surname. Yi Chen's gaze looked straight at Wei Longtao. There are many surnamed Wei. I don't think he was calling me. Wei Longtao's expression turned gloomy. You still haven't answered my question. Yi Chen did not retreat even half a step. Standing next to Wei Longtao and Yi Chen, Wu Chuan and Su Danian were a little nervous. Wei Longtao was the Azure Dragon Hall Master, and had accumulated his prestige for a long time. Although they were Vice Hall Masters, they didn't dare to go against Wei Longtao. In many people's eyes, Wei Longtao was an iron-blooded person, ruthless and merciless. And although Yi Chen looked young, the baleful aura hidden in his body wasn't any less than Wei Longtao's. In Blood Battle Ocean, the scene of Yi Chen leading hundreds of people and killing in and out of the enemy's camp was still vivid in their minds. And just now, Yi Chen didn't say anything and directly chopped off Yao Yifeng's hand, which made them feel very apprehensive. The two of them confronted each other, swords drawn. Palace Master, Vice Palace Master Yi, let's talk things out. There's no need to get angry. Su Danian came out to mediate. Yeah, if there's anything, let's sit down and talk it out. If we can't come to an agreement, there's still the higher-ups. There's no need to have a conflict over Yao Yifeng's matter. Wu Chuan thought that his temper was fiery enough, but in front of Yi Chen and Wei Longtao, he couldn't put on any airs. These two were ruthless characters. Yi Chen also didn't look at Wu Chuan and Su Danian. Just now the two of you saw it. Hall Master Wei was in a hurry to kill Yao Yifeng, so he must be hiding something. Before Yao Yifeng died, he shouted the word Wei, and his gaze was also on Hall Master Wei. It's impossible that the two of you didn't notice it. Yi Chen wasn't a detective, nor was he a shrewd and astute character with real power. He was Yi Chen, a swordsman who was now known as a sword master. He had his own way of dealing with things, and there was no need to wait until the truth came to light. He also didn't have that much energy to investigate. As long as he had 50% certainty that there was something wrong with the other party, he wouldn't let it go. Moreover, Wei Longtao had killed Yao Yifeng in front of him, so the matter was different. In short, Yi Chen's goal was to step onto the peak of the sword Dao, and not to play any tricks. He was very clear about his priorities. As for why he didn't make a move when he suspected Yao Yifeng, it was because Yao Yifeng hadn't revealed too many clues. It couldn't be that he would capture him, just because his expression was a bit strange. Doing so would only make him lose his popularity. Wei Longtao's actions just now were problematic everywhere. He didn't believe that a dignified Azure Dragon Hall Master couldn't control his emotions. Most importantly, Yao Yifeng's gaze towards Wei Longtao, and his shout of the word Wei, before his death was extremely suspicious. This, in truth, Su Danian and Wu Chuan were also suspicious of Wei Longtao. Unfortunately, before the truth came to light, they didn't dare to act rashly. Not to mention, the two of them weren't Wei Longtao's opponent. They originally planned to sit down and have a good chat before secretly sending people to the Dragon God Celestial Palace to investigate. Unfortunately, Yi Chen was even more murderous than they had imagined. Wei Longtao only said one sentence. You have to understand that I'm the Azure Dragon Hall Master. The matters here are decided by me. You have no right to question me. Is that so? You also have to understand one thing. I'm the Dragon God Envoy of the Dragon God Celestial Palace, and my position is above yours. Not to mention the fact that you're the Azure Dragon Hall Master. Even if you were the great elder of Elders Association, as long as I have sufficient reason to believe that there's something wrong with you, I wouldn't tolerate you. Yi Chen squinted his eyes. You dare to use the name of Dragon God Envoy to suppress me? Wei Longtao's aura burst forth, and the air in the chamber became even heavier than mercury. Some of the items in the chamber directly exploded and disintegrated. Why wouldn't I dare? What a good why wouldn't I dare? Deputy Su, Deputy Wu, capture Yi Chen for me. My reason is also very simple. He's familiar with the usage of the sound-transmitting snail, so there's definitely something wrong with him. Wei Longtao clenched his fists, and his gaze flickered a few times. In the end, he still suppressed his desire to make a move. In the end, he was extremely apprehensive of Yi Chen's position as Dragon God Envoy. If the other party wasn't a Dragon God Envoy, he would have long since captured him and let him know the immensity of heaven and earth. Hall Master Wei, please forgive us for not being able to comply. Su Danian and Wu Chuan were not idiots. As long as they dared to make a move against Yi Chen, their fates would be miserable. Not to mention the fact that Yi Chen's strength was there for all to see. Whether they could capture him or not was still an issue. Most importantly, they didn't have the authority to capture Dragon God Envoy. Doing so would be equivalent to opposing the entire Dragon God Celestial Palace. The Elders Association would certainly capture them and throw them into the water prison. Of course, the two were also unwilling to listen to Wei Longtao's orders. Wei Longtao was a bit angry. Although he didn't believe that Su Danian and Wu Chuan would dare to make a move against Yi Chen, their straightforward refusal made him feel as if his prestige had been challenged. In the past, this would have been absolutely intolerable, and he would have made an example out of them. I'll still say the same thing. Yao Yifeng betrayed the Dragon God Celestial Palace. Killing him won't be a problem. If you think I have a problem, let the higher-ups investigate me. Wei Longtao turned around and left. He had made great contributions to the Dragon God Celestial Palace. He didn't believe that the palace would do anything to him, just because he killed Yao Yifeng. With a light chuckle, Yi Chen's aura turned sharp. The mercury-like air in the chamber was instantly sliced into countless strands. In an instant, a frightening sword aura pierced through his body and enveloped Wei Longtao. Hall Master Wei, I'm sorry. As a Dragon God Envoy, I want to bring you back to the Dragon God Celestial Palace. If you have anything to say, you can talk to the elders of the Elders Association. As he spoke, Yi Chen took a step forward and extended his hand to grab Wei Longtao. Pung! Wei Longtao turned around and slapped at Yi Chen. Qi energy spread in all directions, and the walls of the chamber instantly warped. Yi Chen, don't think that just because you're a Dragon God Envoy or a monstrous genius of True Spirit Continent, you can look down on everyone. I'll let you know what regret is right now. Wei Longtao was furious. Whether I regret or not has nothing to do with you. Yi Chen made the first move. His ghostly speed allowed him to arrive before Wei Longtao in an instant, and he punched at the defenseless Wei Longtao. Rumble! The entire chamber shattered into pieces, and smoke rose in all directions. Amidst the dense smoke, two figures flew out one after the other. Soon after, Su Danian and Wu Chuan appeared in a somewhat sorry state. They actually started fighting. Su Danian was somewhat incredulous. Brother Su, do you think there's a problem with Hall Master Wei? Wu Chuan asked. Su Danian pondered for a moment, then said, There's a problem. Seems like the two of us have the same thought. I also didn't think there was a problem with Hall Master Wei, but his actions just now were too strange. It was simply not like his usual calm self. However, I didn't expect that Deputy Yi Chen would directly confront Hall Master Wei. Perhaps he doesn't want to go through so much trouble. But Hall Master Wei's strength is unfathomable. Yi Chen's actions are a bit impulsive, and might very well injure himself. Let's wait and see. If there's nothing we can do, we'll help Deputy Yi Chen and throw caution to the wind. Su Danian owed his life to Yi Chen, so he was determined to stand on his side. Bang bang bang. Under the night sky, the sky above Azure Dragon Island suddenly flickered with a resplendent radiance. It flickered as if it was daytime, yet also looked like a bizarre world. Yi Chen, in my eyes, you're merely a genius. Perhaps you haven't experienced the immensity of the heavens and the immensity of the earth. Today, I'll let you know that your so-called strength is not worth mentioning. Demonic Bull Mountain Crushing Art. Wei Longtao's cultivation base couldn't be considered very high, only at late Sea of Soul realm. However, he was still a body refining expert. The secret art he cultivated was actually the second layer of the secret pavilion's demonic bull mountain crushing art, a low heaven-grade secret art that could multiply his strength. What a powerful fleshly body! After exchanging blows with Wei Longtao, Yi Chen was endlessly apprehensive. For ordinary Sea of Soul realm experts, cultivating to the third step spirit body was already the limit. However, Wei Longtao's spirit body had actually reached the fourth step. If it wasn't through ordinary tempering, then it had to be due to refining a large amount of spirit energy crystals. It was indeed heaven-defying for Yi Chen to sit firmly on the head of the 5 great halls, even more so than Master Sky Sword. After exchanging blows with Wei Longtao, Yi Chen was endlessly apprehensive. For ordinary Sea of Soul realm experts, cultivating to the third step spirit body was already the limit. However, Wei Longtao's spirit body had actually reached the fourth step. If it wasn't through ordinary tempering, then it had to be due to refining a large amount of spirit energy crystals. This was the first time Yi Chen had seen someone raise their spirit body to the fourth step. No wonder he could sit firmly on the head of the 5 great halls. He was indeed heaven-defying, even stronger than Master Sky Sword. With the strength of demonic bull mountain crushing art on the inside and powerful Zhen Yuan on the outside, Wei Longtao's figure flickered, choosing to engage in close combat with Yi Chen. Boundless palm pressure swept forth. Clang! Unsheathing the Thunder Disaster Sword, Yi Chen welcomed the incoming attack. Chapter 691. Golden Ripple. Yi Chen's first move was one of his 3 great killing moves, Golden Ripple. As his destruction sword intent reached the 5th step, the golden ripple was no longer a pure golden color, but an even more tyrannical and destructive dark golden color. With a pop, the dark golden ripple spread out with Yi Chen at the center. Its speed was illusory, like a golden flower blossoming in the void. Clang! Although Wei Longtao's speed was as fast as lightning, he was ultimately not as fast as Yi Chen's reaction. Before he could get within 10 meters, he was forced to clash head-on with the dark golden ripple. How frightening was the dark golden ripple! Wei Longtao's palm energy was immediately shattered. However, Wei Longtao's foundation was his physical body and strength. Therefore, even if his palm energy was shattered, he still had his iron palm. The iron palm bombarded the dark golden ripple, immediately erupting with countless energy sparks. A dazzling shockwave stretched across the sky like a galaxy, incomparably resplendent. Demon Bull Budding Horn. Taking 3 steps back, Wei Longtao charged over once more, punching out with a force as sharp as a bull's horn. Go back! Yi Chen sucked in a deep breath and pushed his destruction sword intent to the peak, causing his location to darken. At the same time, Yi Chen disappeared from the sight of Wei Longtao, Wu Chuan, and Su Danian. It was as if there was a black hole there, and Yi Chen was inside it. Rip! A streak of lightning streaked across, and the black sword light abruptly chopped at Wei Longtao's fist. The sharp wind cut off a lock of hair in front of the latter's forehead. The two didn't retreat even half a step. Instead, they pressed against each other, and purple-black lightning appeared in the void. It was a powerful electric current produced by the friction between energies. Yi Chen can actually fight evenly with Hall Leader Wei. Wu Chuan cried out in astonishment. Su Danian was also astonished. He didn't expect Yi Chen's strength to have already reached such a level. No wonder he was called Sword Master. It should be known that Wei Longtao was one of the top experts of Dragon God Celestial Palace. Even the Great Elder of Elder Association wouldn't dare say he could defeat him. In a battle a few years ago, Wei Longtao had blasted a Black King Gates Hall leader into pieces with a single punch. With such a huge commotion, it was impossible for the people on Azure Dragon Island not to know. Not long after, thousands of people gathered here. Chen Yusen, Xing Meiyan, Lin Songhai, and the others also came. What's going on? Why are Vice Palace Master Yi and Palace Master fighting to the death? Xing Malian covered her mouth, not daring to believe her eyes. She wasn't an idiot. How could the battle between Yi Chun and Wei Longtao be a spar? Every move and every style was extremely dangerous. Could Hall Master Wei be a spy? Chen Yusin let her imagination run wild. Everyone says that Vice Palace Master Yi is a genius rarely seen in 1,000 years. But now, it seems like it was quite tactful. He can actually fight against Palace Master. Right. Although I don't know why Vice Palace Master Yi and Palace Master are fighting to the death, we simply can't interfere. We can only watch from the sidelines. Everyone discussed spiritedly, sighing at Yi Chen's strength. One was a Vice Palace Master, while the other was a Palace Master. When two experts clashed, one would surely be injured. As for who would have the last laugh, it would depend on their respective methods and trump cards. Yi Chen die for me. His right fist collided with the Thunder Disaster Sword. Wei Longtao's back muscles bulged as his left fist carried a tremendous force and punched toward Yi Chen's face. Void-shattering finger. Yi Chen neither retreated nor dodged. His left index finger flickered with a cyan-colored radiance and pierced through the lower part of his right arm, landing on Wei Longtao's iron fist. Pop! The two separated and retreated a few hundred meters. Without another attack, Wei Longtao looked at Yi Chen with apprehension, his eyes squinting into slits. Yi Chen's battle strength was beyond his imagination. Up until now, he had already used 70 to 80% of his strength, but he still couldn't do anything to the other. If it were a hall master of a hostile force, he would have long since killed him with a single punch. Not bad. You can actually block so many of my moves. Wei Longtao gradually relaxed his body. His muscles loosened, and his surging power gradually condensed. He was like a dormant volcano on the verge of eruption, ready to erupt with thousands of years of accumulated energy at any time, destroying everything in front of him. You're also not bad. No wonder you can sit firmly on the position of Azure Dragon Hall Master, even killing the traitor, Yao Yifeng, with a single punch. Yi Chen didn't plan to use the defensive sword art. Up until now, there was no one worthy of him using it. Of course, he didn't dare to look down on Wei Longtao. Apart from his spirit body reaching the fourth step, the latter's physical strength was no less than 800,000 jin. Back then, Su Jing had said that there was once a sect called Boundless Sect. The sect's supreme elder and sect master both had a physical strength of over 500,000 jin, especially the sect master, whose physical strength was heaven-defying. And this Wei Longtao's physical strength was not below that sect master's. Moreover, he cultivated the heaven-grade low-grade secret art, demonic bull mountain crushing art, which allowed his physical strength to multiply, reaching more than 1,000,000 jin. He was the most frightening opponent Yi Chen had ever encountered. Next, I will go all out. I hope you won't be crippled by me. Wei Longtao's body shook, and his clothes were torn to shreds, revealing the exquisite and mighty armor underneath. He clenched his fists and arched his body like a bow. Roar! A blood-red essence chi smoke soared up to the sky. Blood-colored lightning flickered and flickered. A fierce gale swept across the entire Azure Dragon Island. Some towering trees were uprooted and blown into the sky. The lake water on the island surged upward like a waterspout. As for Wei Longtao's location, sand and pebbles were flying everywhere. The sky darkened. Essence Chi beacon materialization. Yi Chen was startled. The blood chi of a body refiner was countless times stronger than that of an ordinary person. Once they went all out, the essence chi could not be locked and would gush out. But unless the spectator was a body refiner, there was no way to see it with the naked eye. But this Wei Longtao's essence chi had already broken through the bindings and could be seen with the naked eye. One could well imagine how powerful the opponent's blood chi was. Demonic Bull seizes Flood Dragon. Pushing his strength to the limit, Wei Longtao turned into a blood-colored lightning bolt and rushed out of the sand and stones, punching out. Following this punch, Yi Chen discovered that his blood chi was on the verge of collapse, as if it was about to be blown apart. It had to be known that blood chi was the foundation of the body. Without it, the consequences would be unimaginable. The blood qi contained in Wei Longtao's punch was much stronger than Yi Chen's own blood qi. Even from a distance, it was still very uncomfortable. Dragon bone materialization. A white layer of dragon bone spread out from the surface of Yi Chen's skin. This thin layer instantly covered Yi Chen's entire body. Even his face could not be seen. It was as if he was wearing a white mask, revealing only his eyes and long hair. With the appearance of the dragon bone defensive layer, Yi Chen's tottering blood qi stabilized, no longer being affected by Wei Longtao's blood qi. Thunder Devour. Materializing the dragon bone was only a matter of a single thought. Yi Chen himself was not idle either. He raised his thunder disaster sword high up, and black lightning gathered at its tip, condensing into a fist-sized thunder ball. As soon as the thunder ball appeared, it immediately burst forth with an intense aura of destruction, condensing to the point of being solid. Bang! With a sword strike, the thunder ball turned into a black light beam and shot toward Wei Longtao. Break! Wei Longtao fearlessly collided with the thunder ball. Kacha, kacha, kacha! The thunder ball exploded, turning the surrounding 100 li into a world of thunder and lightning. Forked lightning, snake-shaped lightning, lightning beams, and huge thunder balls shot out in all directions, covering all the spectators. It was as if the end of the world had arrived, and there was no way to escape. Retreat! Su Danian raised his protective Zhen Yuan and roared at everyone. Puff! Although everyone was far away and had fled when the situation turned bad, there were still some who spurted out blood, suffering serious internal injuries. At the center of the thunder explosion, Wei Longtao stood tall without falling. Before the lightning could even approach him, it was dispersed by the intense blood qi around his body. Too powerful. A Sea of Souls realm warrior can really be this powerful. Xing Melian and Chen Yusin were dumbstruck. Be it Wei Longtao's strength, or Yi Chen's battle strength, both shattered their understanding of Sea of Soul realm. Ordinary Sea of Soul realm masters were like dregs in front of Wei Longtao and Yi Chen, unable to withstand a single blow. With the Thunder Devour, Yi Chen took the initiative to attack. He raised his long sword and slashed upward. Wei Longtao was naturally not afraid of close combat, and he clashed with Yi Chen. Dozens of exchanges passed. Blood-severing ghost finger. Yi Chen's reaction and perception were a notch higher than Wei Longtao's, and he suddenly used the blood-severing ghost finger he had just learned. Blood-severing ghost finger was a 5-star heaven-grade secret art. As soon as it was used, it immediately produced a strange phenomenon. Horror and horror were all concentrated on this finger. You actually cultivated blood-severing ghost finger. As if he had seen a ghost, Wei Longtao immediately retreated. He had been to the secret pavilion many times, and had even been to the 3rd floor. He naturally knew of this frightening secret art. Because it was too difficult to cultivate, no one could cultivate it to greater completion. Even Palace Master Dragon King had only cultivated it to minor completion. Moreover, blood-severing ghost finger couldn't be exchanged with contribution points. Therefore, Wei Longtao could only read the introduction in the booklet, and couldn't learn it. However, this didn't hinder his apprehension of blood-severing ghost finger. It could be said that blood-severing ghost finger could restrain body-refining experts. No matter how much blood qi one had, it would be severed by the finger and turned into a ghost. Unfortunately, no matter how fast Wei Longtao escaped, he couldn't be faster than Yi Chen's attack speed. With a slash of his silver hook, Wei Longtao's body seemed to have lost something without a sound. Wei Longtao carefully sensed his body and immediately laughed heartily. So, you've only learned the basics of blood-severing ghost finger. You're still a long way from minor completion. He had lost quite a bit of blood qi, but compared to the total amount of blood qi in his body, it was negligible. He wasn't affected at all. Sure enough, the current blood-severing ghost finger is far from enough to deal with the body-refining expert of Wei Longtao's level. Its effect is very small. Yi Chen didn't want to use blood-severing ghost finger to defeat his opponent, but to test it out. Only against an expert of the same level would it be meaningful. Against ordinary experts, even if he used blood-severing ghost finger to defeat his opponent, he wouldn't know how powerful it was. Chapter 692. Demonic Bull Burst Power. After realizing that the blood-severing ghost finger was no threat to him, Wei Longtao's body shook, and a dense blood qi surged out of his body, condensing into a demonic bull phantom. This demonic bull was emitting a wild power ripple, its muscles twisting, looking down on all living things. Explode! Wei Longtao punched at Yi Chun, the blood qi assaulting his dragon bone defense. What a condensed blood qi! My protective Zhen Yuan has almost been ignored. Yi Chun took 3 steps back, and a small crack appeared on the dragon bone defense. Blood qi was different from Zhen Yuan. It was a special source of power. Therefore, the protective Zhen Yuan could hardly defend against the impact of blood qi. And blood qi could not directly injure the body. It could only shake the foundation of blood qi. If Yi Chun did not have the dragon bone defense on his skin, or if his blood qi was insufficient, his blood qi might be washed away. And in serious cases, it might even collapse. This bone defense can defend against the impact of blood qi? Once was fine, but twice was the same. No matter how stupid Wei Longtao was, he could tell that the dragon bone defensive layer on Yi Chun's skin was not simple. It seemed to contain a special blood qi ripple, which could not only increase one's defense, but also counteract a portion of the blood qi's impact. The remaining blood qi's impact was naturally unable to shake Yi Chun's blood qi's foundation. So what? Watch me blow you up with one punch. Like a crazed killing demon, Wei Longtao's figure flickered as he punched out one after another. Each of his punches contained more than 1,000,000 gene of strength, possessing a frightening destructive power. Just think about it. When more than 1,000,000 gene of power was concentrated in a fist, and then pushed at dozens of times the speed of sound, how powerful would it be? This was not the same level as a 1,000,000 gene object charging at dozens of times the speed of sound. The larger the object, the larger the area of destruction. However, the power would be scattered, and the difference between the two would be more than 100 times. Therefore, 1,000,000 gene of power was not frightening. What was frightening was the instantaneous eruption of this power. Clang! 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 Yi Chun waved his long sword, and circles of dark golden ripples attacked Wei Longtao. Compared to the pure golden ripples, the power of these ripples was much weaker. However, they had the advantage in quantity. No matter how ferocious Wei Longtao's attacks were, they could not advance an inch. Damn it! Wei Longtao was like a boat sailing against the current, unable to do anything to Yi Chun. On the other hand, Yi Chun was at ease, occasionally launching a sneak attack. In close combat, if Yi Chun had only cultivated Zhen Yuan, perhaps he would have lost to Wei Longtao long ago. However, apart from cultivating Zhen Yuan, Yi Chun's physical strength wasn't bad either. It was 400,000 gene. 400,000 gene of physical strength combined with Zhen Yuan, destruction sword intent, and profound sword arts didn't lose to Wei Longtao in the slightest. Every time he slashed, he would be able to hit the opponent's weak point, achieving twice the result with half the effort. Therefore, if one didn't fight with Yi Chun, they wouldn't know why Yi Chun was so frightening. His true frightening aspect was that he had no weaknesses, which meant that his enemies couldn't find any. On the other hand, it was precisely because Yi Chun had no weaknesses that his enemies' weaknesses would be magnified in front of him. Wei Longtao's attacks seemed to be very fierce, but they were still somewhat rough and not meticulous enough. When encountering an opponent weaker than him, he would naturally be able to kill them with a single punch. However, when encountering an opponent like Yi Chun who had no weaknesses, he couldn't grasp the overall situation. It was clearly him who took the initiative to attack, but towards the end, he was on the defensive, guarding against Yi Chun's unpredictable sword arts. How is this possible? The more Wei Longtao fought, the more apprehensive he became. His battle power was continuously increasing, and he originally thought that he could suppress Yi Chun and cripple him. However, the situation was the same as before. No, it was still a bit lacking. While he was increasing his battle power, his opponent was also increasing his battle power. Moreover, his opponent could use every bit of his strength appropriately, without any wastage or lack of strength. My strength is 800,000 gene, and my demonic bull mountain crushing art has also been cultivated to the second realm, allowing me to erupt with a strength of 1,400,000 Jin. If it were someone else with similar strength, they would have long since been unable to hold on. Why is he able to hold on and even suppress me? Even if Wei Longtao was the Azure Dragon Hall leader with tyrannical strength, he couldn't understand the difference between him and Yi Chen. He felt that his battle power was a bit stronger than the latter. Although Yi Chen's destruction sword intent was powerful, his cultivation base was only at the peak of mid-sea of Soul Realm, and his spirit body had even reached the 4th step. It should be known that the 3rd step spirit body was already the peak for Sea of Soul Realm experts. The 4th step spirit body was the body of a king, and could contain even more strength. Its pure defense was extremely frightening, and he wouldn't be afraid of the rebound force in a head-on clash. It doesn't matter. With Demonic Bull Mountain Crushing Art cultivated to the 2nd realm, I can barely use Demonic Bull Mountain Crushing Fist. This fist can increase my strength to 1,600,000 Jin. With an increase of 200,000 Jin, I can absolutely crush him. His blood chi surged as Wei Longtao prepared a huge killing move. On the opposite side, Yi Chen was also considering how to defeat Wei Longtao. If Wei Longtao mainly cultivated Jin Yuan, he wouldn't have to go through so much trouble. As long as he used Yellow Dragon Sealing Art at close range, he would be able to restrict the opponent's Jin Yuan. Unfortunately, Wei Longtao mainly cultivated strength, and Yellow Dragon Sealing Art couldn't restrict him. Yi Chen didn't have the confidence to use Golden Hurricane, but Wei Longtao definitely had other powerful killing moves. Not to mention, Wei Longtao had a 4th step spirit body, and his defense was ridiculously powerful. Forget it, I've underestimated the strength of peak body refiners. Actually, Yi Chen couldn't be blamed for underestimating Wei Longtao. The main reason was that he hadn't encountered many body refiners. Lin Tian could be considered one, but Yi Chen's strength had risen too quickly, and he had quickly surpassed the other. Therefore, his understanding of body refiners wasn't deep. As for himself, he could only be considered half-baked. Yi Chen, take my fist. Accumulating his strength to the limit, Wei Longtao's body emitted an intense red light, and his entire body seemed like a blood-red sun. Rumble! Taking a step forward, Wei Longtao punched out. His blood chi surged, and the demonic bull's image suddenly shrunk, converging on his right arm. With its head in front and tail in the back, it raised its head and roared. Its eyes were like copper bells. Without any hesitation, the demonic bull's image separated from Wei Longtao's fist and charged toward the nearby Yi Chen with its horns. Hall leader Wei has used a supreme killing move. The spectators in the distance held their breaths, their eyes unblinking. On the opposite side, Yi Chen's blue robes fluttered in the wind, and his long hair fluttered like swords. Because of his grave and stern expression, his eyes were extremely sharp and narrow. The cold light inside seemed to have solidified, as if there was a lump of cold chi that couldn't be concealed. Golden Hurricane. Taking a step forward, Yi Chen held the Thunder Disaster sword with both hands and unleashed a supreme profound sword move with a mountain-splitting force. Huff! A beam of dark golden ripple shot out at the speed of light. The demonic bull's image and the beam of ripple collided. There was no sound, no shockwave. The world seemed to have lost its sound, leaving only a blood-red and dark golden light sphere. Inside the sphere, the demonic bull's image and the dark golden ripple had yet to dissipate. Rumble! With a world-shattering sound, the demonic bull's image exploded with a bang, and the dark golden ripple was reduced to a finger-thick beam. It pierced through the fragments of the demonic bull's image and struck Wei Longtao's chest. Its speed was so fast that the latter didn't even have time to react. It's actually Vice Hall leader Ye's killing move that's even stronger. The spectators cried out in surprise. Senior brother Yi is going to win. Chen Yusen revealed a happy expression. Compared to Wei Longtao, she was more inclined toward Yi Chen. After all, Yi Chen had already convinced her. Even Hall leader Wei isn't Yi Chen's opponent. Xing Malian admittedly admired Yi Chen, but Wei Longtao's decades of prestige was too deep-rooted. If it were her, she wouldn't even have the confidence to resist. Hehe, seems like we don't have to make a move. Wu Chuan and Su Danian heaved a sigh of relief. Puff! Wei Longtao flew back in shock. Although the armor on his chest was a semi-extreme grade armor, the concentrated energy still made him unable to control his body and blood qi. His ribs creaked as he felt an unbearable pain for the first time. Yi Chen faintly creased his brows. He wasn't as optimistic as the spectators. Sure enough, after flying back a dozen li, Wei Longtao stopped his momentum. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, looking completely fine. It was as if he had only suffered a minor injury that didn't affect his condition or battle power. On the contrary, it made his aura even more valiant and frightening. Yi Chen, I have to admit that apart from Great Elder, you're the first Sea of Soul Master I've acknowledged. Unfortunately, this is still not enough, far from enough. My strength is not something you can imagine. This bit of offensive power can't injure me. Wei Longtao's expression turned tranquil. Lightly letting out a breath, Yi Chen sheathed the Thunder Disaster sword and said indifferently, I have no choice but to admit that I've underestimated you. Your strength is higher than any Sea of Soul Master I've encountered. Indeed, this bit of offensive power can't do anything to you. Since you know, then surrender yourself to us. Admit your mistake in front of me, and I might forgive you and give you a dignified ending. Faintly shaking his head, Yi Chen said, No, you don't understand my meaning. I still haven't displayed my true strength, although I really don't want to. What? This wasn't even Deputy Ye's true strength? What kind of joke is this? Yeah, Hall Leader Wei has already gone all out. Only his defense is a bit stronger. Deputy Yi can't do anything to him. Do you think Deputy Yi is just trying to scare Hall Leader Wei? I don't know. The battle between Wei Longtao and Yi Chen could be said to be an intense battle beyond their level. It had already left them dumbstruck, and they didn't even have the qualifications to look up to it. But now, Yi Chen was telling them that this wasn't his true strength. They couldn't accept it, feeling that it was too outrageous. Wu Chuan and Su Danian exchanged glances, feeling a bit frightened. As for Chen Yusin and Xing Melian, they were already dumbstruck. Humph! Wei Longtao coldly snorted and sneered. Even now, you still haven't given up. I really don't know whether to call you arrogant or ignorant. Whether I am or not, you'll know very soon. Left with no choice, Yi Chen decided to expose his defensive sword art. Wei Longtao's strength was beyond his imagination, and the extraordinary strength of a body refining expert was also beyond his expectations. Chapter 693. Make your move. I'll make you feel despair. Wei Longtao was extremely confident in his defense. He simply didn't think that Yi Chen could break through his defense and heavily injure him. Of course, he didn't dare to be careless. His muscles swelled, and every inch of his body contained a terrifying energy, causing his skin to be covered in a layer of blood-colored light. On the other side, Yi Chen was standing several miles away. He didn't draw his sword, nor did he take any stance. However, his gaze gradually sharpened as it locked onto Wei Longtao's aura. As the night wind whistled, the spectators held their breaths as they stared at Yi Chen. They wanted to see Yi Chen's true strength. Kill! 2 beams of cold light flashed through his eyes. Yi Chen pointed out with his right hand, and the gold sword on his back automatically took out of its scabbard. It shot out at a speed that was beyond the soul power's perception. Because of its unbelievably fast speed, everyone's eyes were still focused on Yi Chen, waiting for him to perform his ace attack. Danger! Wei Longtao's scalp went numb. Then, as if he had been electrocuted, the numbness spread from his head to his feet, and then back to his head. This was no longer his consciousness warning him of danger, but his body's instinct. In fact, he didn't even have time to think in this short period of time. Clang! On his chest, magma-like sparks splashed, and the strong smell of iron could not be dispersed even by the wind. In the next moment, Wei Longtao spurted out a large amount of blood, and was instantly sent flying dozens of li away like he was riding on a cloud. Along the way, blood flowed out of his eyes, nose, and ears, wriggling like little snakes. Hall Leader Wei lost? The spectators were a little dazed. They had been waiting for Yi Chen to make his move. Unfortunately, from start to end, they only saw Yi Chen's right hand move. and Hall Leader Wei was sent flying with sparks of magma splashing out from his chest. Hiss! After a moment of daze, the spectators sucked in a cold breath. A move that could be seen clearly wasn't scary. What was scary was that they couldn't see anything. Return to the sheath. Yi Chen changed his mind, and the gold sword flew back into the scabbard on Yi Chen's back, its sharpness dimmed. This is the sword that defeated Hall Head Wei? Only then did everyone understand that Yi Chen's killing move was a flying sword. As for whether or not it was thrown by hand, they were a little confused because they didn't have the time to pay attention at that time. Sword Sex Yi Chen is worthy of his title. Wu Chuan and Su Danian were filled with admiration. When they first learned that Yi Chen was a grandmaster of the sword, they did not take it too seriously. But now, they understood that there was probably no one among the grandmasters of the sword who could be a match for Yi Chen. Yi Chen was the new grandmaster of the sword. Even in the Eastern Shallow Sea, there was not a single grandmaster of the sword who could contend against him. Hall Master Wei, who has shaken the blood battle ocean for decades, has actually been defeated. This Vice Hall Master Yi is truly heaven-defying. I can't believe it. Me too. I thought he was just bragging. However, we still don't know why Hall Master Wei fought with Vice Hall Master Yi. Everyone discussed spiritedly, sighing endlessly. After heavily injuring Wei Longtao, Yi Chen extended his hand, and a powerful suction force pulled the opponent back, causing him to spurt out another mouthful of blood. Wei Longtao, what else do you have to say? Wei Longtao no longer had the strength to fight. He didn't even have the strength to lift a finger. He looked at Yi Chen with resentment. So what if you defeated me? Do you think the elders of Elder Association will believe an outsider like you and forcefully convict me? Yi Chen, today's humiliation will be repaid in the future. I, Wei Longtao, will not rest until you are dead. You should save these words for the elders of Elder Association. As for whom they choose to believe, that's their business. Grabbing Wei Longtao, Yi Chen flew toward the Transfer Palace Hall. This matter was urgent, so he couldn't rush to Dragon God's Celestial Palace. Once Yi Chen left, Chen Yusin and Xing Malian looked at each other in dismay. Yi Chen's domineeringness had shaken them. The majestic Azure Dragon Hall Master still couldn't escape the fate of being carried away. Yi Chen was the first, and perhaps the last. Dragon God's Celestial Palace, Transfer Palace Hall. Carrying Wei Longtao, Yi Chen appeared outside the Transfer Stone Gate. Dragon God Envoy. Inside the Transfer Palace Hall were 4 attendants. Yi Chen said, "Inform all the elders to go to Elder Hall." Yes. Before leaving, the 4 attendants shot a glance at Wei Longtao. Their expressions were a bit strange, but they didn't dare to ask too much. Their figures flickered, and they each separated. In Elder Hall, elders rushed over one after another. However, when they saw Wei Longtao being escorted by Yi Chen, they were somewhat dumbstruck. Not to mention how Yi Chen had captured Wei Longtao. Just what crime Wei Longtao had committed was extremely puzzling. In a short while the 3rd Elder, 2nd Elder, and Great Elder all arrived. After all, they were the 3 Great Elders, and their ability to keep their cool was quite profound. Apart from a bit of surprise, they didn't reveal too much of an expression. Clearing his throat, the Great Elder asked, "Dragon God Envoy, what's going on?" Yi Chen narrated the matter of Yao Yifeng being a spy, and how Wei Longtao had killed him in great detail. Then, he spoke of the reason why he suspected Wei Longtao, without any embellishment. Wei Longtao raised his head and coldly said, "Do you believe me or him?" This. Quite a few elders hesitated. In truth, although Wei Longtao had killed Yao Yifeng a bit impulsively, and also a bit strange, he was still the Azure Dragon Hall Lord. A person with great authority and status only below the Great Elder. Capturing him just like that was truly a bit. Some people even thought of themselves. Yi Chen even dared to capture Wei Longtao. If there came a day when he suspected them, would he also capture them without any regard for the rules? Of course, since Yi Chen was the Dragon God Envoy, they couldn't say anything on the surface. Although Elder Hall was the place where decisions were made, and all matters were decided by them, their authority wasn't the greatest. Above them, there were still the left and right protectors, who had always been hiding in the shadows. Hall Lord Wei, If you're not guilty, no one will do anything to you. Don't worry. An elder who was on good terms with Wei Longtao comforted him, and quickly glanced at Yi Chun. That's right, Hall Lord Wei, don't be impatient. Vice Hall Lord Yi only suspects you. You were a bit impulsive in killing Yao Yifeng. Elder Yu, who was sitting next to him, transmitted his voice to Yi Chun. Dragon God Envoy. You were a bit impulsive this time. Wei Longtao is the Azure Dragon Hall Lord after all, and his connections aren't small. Most importantly, there isn't enough evidence. Moreover, I'm sure that many elders will be afraid of you because of this matter and gradually distance themselves from you. A cold smile appeared on Yi Chen's face. Impulsive? I don't think so. If he's a spy, leaving him in the Azure Dragon Hall will only bring endless disasters. As for the Elder Hall members being afraid of me and distancing themselves from me, haha, Elder Yu, honestly speaking, I'm not that infatuated with authority. I only believe in strength. With sufficient strength, even the heavens can be pierced. Authority is nothing more than fleeting clouds. Just one chapter today, and I can barely keep my eyes open. Tomorrow I'll make up for it. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.